Have you ever been in a group or a class and the teacher or the leader called you out, asked you a question, and you froze? Your body tensed up, your mind went blank. You kept searching for the answers, but you had them in your heart. I have suffered from not having the words in sacred circles for many years, since I was very young. In this chapter that I wrote in Sacred Medicine, Surrendering to Spirit, Releasing Shame to Embody Leadership, is where I share how sacred medicine helped me heal and transcend this wound. It's really amazing to be back here in New York to share my life-altering experiences with you. It's amazing how the universe has created this full circle return to the place I lived for most of the 1980s to give this talk. I arrived as this Midwestern young man who had $200 in his pocket to pursue an actor, dancer, singer, model career, and I never looked back. New Yorkshire has changed a lot since then, but it'll always be the place where my deep spiritual journey began. It's where I had my first therapist. I used to attend her best friend's channeling of Emmanuel church on the Upper West Side. It's where I learned how to meditate. It's where I met my first spirit guide, Milton Sherman. He's this little Liberace-looking guy with this sequin jacket, and he rides around on this little pony, and he kind of keeps me light with his silly comments. It's where I had my first float tank experience, and where I had my first holotropic breathwork experience. It's also where I attended my first Patti LaBelle concert. I sat there enthralled as she opened herself up, and this orchestra of divine notes just flowed through her all night long. There was no way she could have rehearsed what she was sharing with us. It was like she was surrendering to something much deeper than herself and not knowing where these notes were going to go. You know, in African American churches, the gospel singers, it's very common to have this surrender experience, and it's often called, I believe, they caught the Holy Ghost or Spirit. I had to turn to my performing abilities to express the light within me because it was safer to be someone else. I relished in how when I lost myself and surrendered to Spirit, I really touched audiences. But it was when my spiritual path became much more important than performing that I realized that surrendering to Spirit isn't really about losing yourself, but it's actually about finding your true self. So, how do we surrender? We all are divine beings on this sacred journey. Each one of us has a special gift that no one else has. We are divine light, and we land here, and then society and parents and family members and teachers dim that light with their words and actions. So as I mentioned before, we all have this unique gift that nobody else has in the world. And I believe it's that journey of discovering, bringing to light, and expressing those gifts are each of our purposes in this life. Sacred medicine and indigenous cultures have known this for years. They supported each person's unique expression because they treat each seat in the circle as essential for the attainment of the highest good of all concerned. It's one of the many reasons I went to Ecuador twice in the last year to experience the wisdom of the medicines of San Pedro and ayahuasca in the part of the world they are from. So I, like you, was born of light, I was very brilliant, I was very creative, and I was very innocent. So it was this very bright, sunny day, and the little girls and boys of my kindergarten class were restlessly gathering for a milk and cookies break in a circle, right? And so I am starting to open my carton, and I realize that the teacher has approached me and is hovering over me, and I'm sensing something is terribly wrong. So I slowly raise my gaze, and I see that she has her left hand on her head and her right hand finger pointing to this puddle on the ground, and she said, "Greg, what is that?" I had wet my pants. Humiliated, I froze. Every muscle in my body tensed. I could sense everybody was staring at me. Their silence was deafening. I searched desperately for what seemed like hours to try to find the words that would not expose me for what just happened. My innocence had been stolen, and I lived with this trauma for about 60 years. As a therapist, I learned how to manage the trauma, but it wasn't until I embarked on this sacred journey to Ecuador that I realized how deep this freezing wound I had was affecting me and keeping me from being who I truly am. So as I boarded the flight to Quito, Ecuador, I wondered, what is this journey going to be about? I kind of felt like I was missing a skill as a healer. But I heard that grandmother, ayahuasca, she doesn't always give you what you want, but she definitely gives you what you need, and I definitely learned the truth of that statement. It was the 4th day of my sacred journey, and I was in a 10-hour sweat lodge with San Pedro medicine. So as the flap of the sweat lodge closed from the beginning of the 3rd round, from the pitch darkness I heard, "Gregorio, sing!" And somebody handed me a rattle. I froze, just like that little kindergarten kid. I mean, who was I to lead this sacred ceremony? So I just decided to close my eyes, take a deep breath, allow San Pedro to hold me, found the rhythm of the rattle, and I sang the Song of the Eagle. I sang 4 rounds, and in the 2nd round, everyone joined in the chorus, and I was like, what are they doing? They're joining in the chorus, and I was just elated, but I still didn't realize I was actually leading a part of the sacred ceremony. It was the last night of my journey where I was to meet grandmother, and I entered the bamboo house. The sense of Palo Santo and sage wafted through this candlelit room, and it really glowed in sacred presence. And I went up to the altar and took my first cup of tea and returned to my seat, and several minutes later I enjoyed this beautiful kaleidoscope of South American images, and then something very heavy descended on me and my head dropped and I felt incredibly nauseous, and I reached for the bucket that had been given to all of us at the beginning of the ceremony. I was really being called to release something very deep and not knowing how this was going to go or where it was going to go. It was like each purge emanated from my sacrum, and it was excruciating. It was like everything shot up through my voice, but nothing was coming out except for air. And then all of a sudden this chunk flew out into the bucket, and I collapsed against the bamboo wall, depleted, and my body kind of dissolved all around me. And then I heard the most beautiful lullaby wafting into my energy field. It was like the Divine Mother was holding me and rocking me and soothing all the humiliation away from my little boy. And then my body just was filled with this enormous glow. Everywhere I looked was love, through this misty lens. The amount of love, compassion, and forgiveness that I felt was 100 times more than I could ever imagine feeling in my life. And it took over my mind. I was no longer managing my fear, it was really being healed. And then, just like the sweat lodge from the pitch darkness, the shaman said, "Gregorio, sing!" This time I didn't have a song. So I said, "What?" She said, "Just sing." So I closed my eyes, opened my body, and this divine orchestra of notes flowed through me and healed me and everyone in the room and beyond. Again, I was being trusted to lead a part of a sacred ceremony that I wasn't familiar with, and yet I kind of was. So the purpose of my journey had been revealed. I'm not only a healer, but I'm a leader. In the sacred ceremonial songs, the theme of many of them is the Spanish word corazón, which means heart. It also means compassion and courage. So sacred medicine can give us the courage to access the wisdom and live from that wisdom from our heart. So the answer to the question I posed earlier was, how do we surrender to spirit? We surrender to the spirit by connecting with our heart. So if I could feel that much love, compassion, and forgiveness with the medicine, I knew it was my new set point, that I wanted to live this way every day, to make the non-ordinary ordinary. So I made it my mission to help as many willing souls that I can, to release their traumas, to dissolve into who they truly are, which is literally light. So as we personally evolve into that light, we are contributing to the evolution of our species. And I can't think of a better purpose than that.